All right.
Way to
I'll-
go, Laura.
I will let everybody know that we're back in open session, but we're going to recess until 7 p.m. So, or did you get any? Do you have any?
Like, are you asking her personally or just in general?
Is there a machine
For
For what?
That-
a drink like water?
No, but I do.
I didn't get home. So
I have a limoncello. I know. See, that's how I usually feel about that.
Separate.
I don't even have my coffee cup and my water cup.
I know. Oh,
You guys don't have like a vending machine? at
We
the school?
actually can't because we're a K through 12 school. We can't give any machines because of the K through 5.
is there any glasses or cups in the kitchen that he can get water out of the fountain?
There might be.
That's
Yeah.
all right. I'm not drinking city water.
It's in the fountain drinks.
Huh?
It's in the machine. So it's filtered through the.
Sure. Thank you.
I wonder-
I could.
Just a minute. All right, everybody ready?
Everybody is ready.
Give me a thumbs up when you guys are ready.
We're not.
Yep.
All right. Are we unmuted? Can everybody hear us okay?
Yep, you guys are all set.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you. So we are back from a
Happy
recess
Sunday.
at 19:02. We've already opened the meeting and completed our executive session. So we're to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to consider?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I have a question about the surplus list.
Yes.
Wondering how, if local community can purchase off of surplus and how, if that's available to the community to purchase from.
It is, we go through OSU, I do
It's the
believe, but
online
some of that's,
surplus.
yes, but some
Okay.
of the stuff like the commercial washing machine, the wrestling mats.
Well,
So-
no.
Yeah, but some of it's going to be, I know that we've also talked about, you know, for some of the kitchen stuff that maybe we put out for kids to take home as well. And so you're gonna start seeing a lot of surplus lists, in the next couple months because I'm insisting that we go through and clean up the place, so.
Thank you for that.
and do that, so yeah.
Thank you, Jamie. Any other discussion, questions? All right, there's a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Laura, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, motion passes unanimously. Patron comments this evening. Do we have any patron comments? No, we didn't have any. Okay. Then we are gonna move straight into reports this evening. First up, superintendent report.
Uh, we've been working with the staff and I about next year's advertising. We put out Learn at Home for pre-registration. We're gonna do the brick and mortar. First part of April, we'll put out, we're doing Google, Facebook, website. We're doing a lot of different things to advertise for our enrollment. We are a charter school with an open enrollment, so there's no inter-district transfers, but there should be inter-district transfers going out for us around schools in our area because they are not open enrollment. So we're gonna really push that if we're going out, we're gonna see an inter-district transfer. Food service, Roxy and I actually went to Philomath. So us and Philomath are contracting through Corvallis for food service. As we've said before, we are looking at ways to help decrease our cost of food service. So we wanted to visit what Philomath looked like to see any sort of comparison. They look very similar to what we do in terms of administrative support and food ordering. Don, Roxy, and I are meeting with Corvallis. We met with Corvallis to ensure we actually are maximizing our monies and how those processes go. Don is looking at how much the cost. So when we talk about a cost per meal, it's not just the food. You have to also get into the administrative costs. So right now we're estimating that our per meal costs for breakfast is about I want to say altogether, we'll know more once we get closer to the end. But we're saying that our per meal cost is around $5 per meal, and we actually only get reimbursed $3. So we're pulling out of our own coffers $1.50, and we're even pulling out of our own coffers for adult meals. So that ultimately, you know, the big issues that we have is we don't have a commercial kitchen. It's cheaper to make things homemade, not just warm them up. We do not have the capacity to do that, and we don't have storage spaces. Later on, Chris Skiggy will actually talk to you all kind of about a grant that actually fell in our lap that we're hoping that if we can get this grant and maximize it, that this will help us get a commercial kitchen and actually be a helpful part of the company. But right now, until really we have this space in this commercial kitchen, we will. It's just something that it is what it is. Our early literacy grant actually got approved through ODE. The money was released last week. We're one of the earliest ones to get approved. It was a quick and easy approval. It was great. So Dawn, we now have the $94,000 that we're able to use our budget on. We have staff members signed up for trainings in the spring or in the summer. We have some actually going in 2 weeks to Eugene. We're buying some extra RTI stuff for the teachers and our RTI aides to implement in the classroom, some curriculum, and some different materials. So that was a huge relief that we finally got that grant done because there are people who still are waiting because they didn't follow the necessary steps. Like there are a bunch of school districts who still haven't presented it to their board properly. So they've already started spending the money and they don't have it.
sorry to ask a question in the middle of your report, but is that 94,000 that you addressed, is that the one that has to be spent by like the end of June?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what,
But we have plans.
no, that's fine. I was just curious.
Yes.
Because that has to be spent. at some
Yes,
point. Okay.
but we can go back till October first. Yeah, so we can go back and do different things, which we've already done. The one thing about this grant is, remember, it was a 2-year grant, so this year was 94, next year was 95. They're saying to estimate that we'll have the same amount next year, but it is based on your ADM, so I'm not sure if that grant will go down. But we're not sure. They told us to estimate the same cost, but who knows? I actually spent the afternoon of February 29th meeting with all 3 commissioners for Benton County. It was actually a really great meeting. They came up with some really great things for us in terms of a different grant. And so I'm really working Commissioner Agarat, who I think is coming out or has come out,
It's coming out shortly.
was a great resource for us. The new county administrator, Rachel McEnany, is really great. I think she's got a lot of spunk and she wants to know really what else he wants and what else he needs, and really is coming out as well. So I think that was a great way to introduce, because, you know, they know Mr. Noss, and they know Miss Halliday, and they know Mr. Croson from Monroe, but they didn't really know me. And so it was really great to get in their, you know, in their offices, and we got some really good feedback, or really good information from Commissioner Agarat about the Benton Community Foundation. And so that's what we'll talk about in the one grant that we go for.
I think I answered your question. They were out for a town.
They
hall
were
earlier
just
this
recently.
week.
Okay,
Just
that's
like-
when it was.
Yeah,
Wednesday.
I thought you were
Was
talking,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday. It was
San is on her way out as a commissioner.
okay.
I think her term is up
Yes.
shortly.
But I also think, and then I've actually met Representative Hoyle, her chief of, or whoever runs her office in this region. So I have connected with her about some things. And then I sent emails to both of our state senator and our representative asking.
You did the ODE though.
I did to ODE. I don't want to talk about it.
But there is some outreach there to get them.
To get them to
Into
come
our
out.
building.
Yes. So really trying to get them to come out and see and listen. And different things like that. So, and then the facilities, we finally got the full approval and the permissions for the bathroom remodel. Keenan has started it. It should be done by the end of spring break.
What
Um,
bathroom remodel?
So we took where the old counseling in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade wing. There's 2 offices.
Yeah.
One office we kept, the one on the back, we're actually changing it into a bathroom.
Oh.
2 bathrooms, and they're gonna be actually bathroom rooms, and so they're gonna be gender neutral, so you'll be able to go into the
perfect.
bathroom room, and it has a toilet and a sink in there. One is handicap, one is regular, or however you say that. And it will just give us more, so that then the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders will be able to use that rather than coming in and out of the building.
Ah, perfect.
So it should be done. We had the electricians actually out today. The plumbers were coming out next week to set the toilets, and then Keenan will just finish all the work. So it looks nice. It's actually bigger than I thought. At one point I looked at Keenan, I'm like, are we putting a chair in here too? It's so big. So I hope we're not. But it'll be great. We're starting in the beginning stages of construction for the VOTEC building. We've gotten kind of the outline also for the HVAC. What I will tell you is we are closing the school starting June 24th because they're going to take all the HVAC out of the gym, the parts, and they're going to put new ones in. And then July 8th is when we're going to shut power off completely for 2 to 3 weeks. So really, our school won't be truly available until probably the 1st or 2nd week of August. I will probably have my staff work from home because of the power. The power they said could be up to 3 weeks. They're hoping for 2. But there'll be a lot of things here. Keenan and I have been taking meetings left and right because it's also really hard because we know we have summer basketball and we want to do this. And so we're really trying to get things moving along. And then Keenan, Don, and I have been discussing the increase in utility costs since the new HVAC is going live this summer. You know, our concern is we're going to get this great heating and air conditioning system, and then we literally have single pane windows that are from like the 60s. And so Keenan and I and Dawn have actually been looking at budgets, and we think we have enough in our budget to replace all the windows in the building. And when I say replace, though, we're not replacing the entire wall. They'll be replaced, the bottom two will open and the rest will be a wall. And so we're gonna probably do it in phases because I don't think Keenan will have enough time, especially with power out, to do them all. But so we're gonna sit and we're gonna do like a phase one this summer and a phase two will happen over Christmas break, and we're gonna work all the way around. Same things with doors, because a lot of our doors, you can see, air around it. And I don't want to increase our bill by 20%. I'd rather put the 20% into increasing or updating windows and then in the long run. And as Keenan's done, some of the, like, I can't even think, words have left me too.
Well, it's Thursday.
Keenan we looked at the energy rebates and we would get probably close to 60% back on what we paid for the windows. So we're really working on that because I do, like I said, I don't want to spend our money on increased power bills.
Well, we're still gonna have increased power bills until all the windows are
Yes.
replaced.
They
We're
are.
gonna have
The
increased
fuel
power bills
costs
anyway
should
because
go
you've
down
never had air
significantly.
conditioning, so.
Right, the what?
I mean, the fuel prices are through the roof, they're going back up
Mhm.
exorbitantly, so wouldn't it potentially be a wash?
It would, because we're also getting rid of the boiler.
Yeah.
So there's the fuel cost. So we're taking what we would pay in fuel for the boiler and what we pay for electricity, and we're saying, please don't let the electricity go any higher than what we.
Right.
Well,
I
you
mean, there's
gotta
gotta
watch your air conditioners because, I mean, if you get teachers that go, oh, it's so hot, 65.
They're also not gonna be able to do that. They're gonna be set at a certain level.
Okay.
And they're also we're gonna say, now that you have air conditioning, please don't open your doors and leave them open. So it's gonna be a change in culture.
Yeah.
Because right now it's so hot in it's so hot in the classrooms, all the doors are open. So we're gonna work on some of those pieces. But again, the windows and doors are priorities. And I will tell you, we do have a capital projects fund, which has about $274,000 off to the side. We think the windows and doors will be no more. Keenan has estimated it'd be about 30 to 35,000 to redo everything.
That's not
Is
so
he
bad.
gonna do the work?
He will do the work, yeah, with his staff.
Well, I would say before you buy anything to approach a few of the companies that are local and see if they'll do. I mean, I've just purchased windows and doors for my house, and when you talk to them, the discount they'll give you, because they're not very busy right now,
Mhm.
is pretty big. So I wouldn't just go to if he's gonna do the work, because
Mhm.
then you don't need to worry about the labors. Anyways, something to keep in mind. Some of these companies give you a good deal for your school.
And we've done our lead testing. We have 2 fixtures that we're retesting because they were higher than we needed to be. If they still stay above a certain level, we actually have to turn them. We'll completely have to turn them off. Otherwise, we'll have to go and fix on the pipes, which we don't want to do that.
Oh, no.
So I think we have to do lead testing. Is it every 6 years, John? And so we were up. So Keenan, we got a notice from ODE. So Keenan went around and did all those things. Like I said, we have 2 right now that are elevated that we're going to retest. And then once we retest, if it's not, because it could be an anomaly. If it's still high, then we'll have to shut off the water and take out. So I put for you all the second diagnostic results, if I can get there. Hold on. And this is, remember, we do the mid-year. So if you look at these, the lighter one is the very first diagnostic. The more vibrant colored one is the one for the mid-year. And so the first one is the math. You can see overall that our students at grade level or early on grade level has increased tremendously. Our yellow is the same, but what I really like is that our red has decreased. And so this is all of our schools. We haven't gotten everybody because, like we had one, we need to go through and clean up the numbers. But if you look at like LC Elementary, you can see the difference. And I wanted to share this because the kids have been working hard. The staff has been working hard. And the purpose of this really is we use this for data for small groups. So when we talk, I met, and I'll get more to start as our principal report, but I've met with all the teachers. Heather met with her teachers. Bart and I met with his teachers. And we said, great, is this kind of what you're seeing in your classes? And, you know, if they say yes, okay, what are we doing? If not, where are we missing out? So these have been really good data driven things for us to really sit down and discuss with our staff. Last year we had some of these things, but I don't think they were ever, it was just like, that's what we did. And then nobody ever really used the data. Because when we talk about data these days, it's not just about intuition, teacher intuition. It's really about what is your data saying? Both informally and formally. What is your nationally? And this, you know, I had questions. Is this nationally standardized? Yes. Is it follow the Oregon standards? Yes. I can actually pull reports that show you how many of each Oregon standard in each grade the kids are proficient or not. And so I wanted to share that with you all. We still have work to do, but you can see there is growth. It's not about achievement, and I hate saying that, but it's about growing the kids. This is that differentiation piece where we say we meet where the kids where they are. So our goal is to move the yellow into the green, the red into the yellow. And so what we want to look for is those greens to grow, the reds to shrink, and the yellows to grow or stay the same. So reading, it was better. We also use, if you see the placement by domains, and one of the things, if you look at curriculum is not specific to Oregon. They make curriculum so everybody in every state can do it. So if you follow the curriculum that you're given, you will never get through a whole book. So really what the teachers do with this data and what we've been really working on and coaching them with, and Mr. Pearson's been doing, and Ms. Shunk and I, and even Mr. Rothenberger, is if your class is all proficient in phonological awareness, okay, those are probably things you're not going to spend a lot of time on. So what are we going to spend a lot of time on? So what we noticed across the board is our comprehension everywhere is low. Our vocabulary is low. So we're really, you know, my teachers and the learn at home teachers and Miss Ellis are really working on what does comprehension look like? What do those questions look like? Instead of just doing the basic, like, tell me about the character. What is it actually happening? And so a lot of the coaching has been in how do we teach comprehension skills and different things like that. And so, again, this is one data point. However, when we think about this, the OSAS testing that we get published every year for third grade reading, and that's one data point too. So I want to caution everybody, don't just look at it and be like, oh my God. Remember, there's multiple different data points that we look to make sure students are getting what they need. And some students, yes, they may not be great test takers, but we have talked, we're starting state testing. We had the juniors this week. And so I spoke with them, with Kayla, and I said, tell me a job that you don't have to take a test to get. And one of them is like, a garbage truck driver. And I was like, you have to take a CDL test, I hope. And so finally somebody's like, no, you actually have to take a test for any job you do in life. I'm like, okay. So to sit there and say, well, I don't want to take a test because I have a test anxiety, I don't know then what job you're going to get. You know, a test could be a proficiency test where you show them how you can back up. And if you get test anxiety and you hit something when you back up, you're probably not going to get that job. My favorite is always when they go, to be a hairdresser. And I'm like, no, you actually have to take a lot of tests to be a hairdresser.
Lots of classes.
And so,
One of the two professions where you have to do your exam on a live person.
oh,
That in dentistry. All the other professions, you take a paper test.
yes. So we talk a lot about, you know what, if we have test anxiety, that's great, but in life you have to take these tests. And so I was very proud of the juniors. They all took their tests. They did. I also gave them a lot of suckers, so I didn't hear a lot of complaining. But I was very proud of that. They came in, they listened, and I think, you know, we're going again to, this is that culture of excellence, right? We take our tests. What does it look like? How do we do it? What does it look like if we go to college or go to trade school? We always have to do something to show what you know. And so, like I said, I was very proud. A lot of my teachers, we had students who grew 200% more than what they were estimated to grow. We had an assembly where we actually talked about it. And because it's, you know, it's one of those things where we do honor roll, and that's for the kids who have the great grades. But sometimes those kids who have the great, who are still growing, maybe not have the great grades. So we want to make sure that we're not only recognizing achievement, but recognizing growth. So I wanted to share this. We'll do one more diagnostic in May. So then what'll happen is as we continue this, we'll start getting historical data and we can see how the kids grow throughout the years. So that is my super reports. The regular attenders, we're still working on. There's a lot of misconceptions that if I have an excused absence, that shouldn't be counted as an absence. I don't know. So we're trying to say, regardless if it's excused or not, you're not here. And we all know that people have doctor's appointments and we get that. Even my staff has that. But if you know you're going to be gone for this, then we probably shouldn't be gone because we just don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning. And so it's that kind of reiteration of getting to school. So if you all walked in, you saw the popcorn kernels. I will tell you, I'm very proud of the first graders. They were the first class that had 20 days of 90% attendance or above. Every single class minus one class in the elementary has received a popcorn party because they had 10 days of 90% or above. And we're working on the junior high and high school. I don't think they really knew what it was yet until they started smelling the popcorn and then they started asking questions. And so we're continuing to work on that. Attendance is important. You know, it's great to say, well, can I get my work? But really some of that work is being in school. So we're continuing to work on that. And that is my super. My next for the brick and mortar.
You are.
Okay,
Thank you for letting us interrupt you and ask questions.
please, anytime. We did, like I said, we completed our mid-year diagnostic. Mr. Pearson and I met with individual teachers. It was great to meet with them to talk about what are your next steps, because I think a lot of time it's like, oh, we just do it and then nothing really happens. So we really sat and said, what can Mr. Pearson do to support you in the classroom? What can I do? What can, you know, and the teachers came with some really great ideas, and we're looking at rearranging some aid schedules to support a little bit more here, there, and then looking at different ways to support RTI. And then here's some pictures of our regular attenders for the first semester. The elementary, we got to work on the junior high and high school excitement. The elementary, like I had screamers like, "Ma!" It's like they won the lottery. So it was great.
It was cool.
It was awesome.
It was really cool.
Doing after school activities. The culinary class is a hit. They made sushi one day. They forgot to invite me. I was kind of upset about it. But today they made macaroni and cheese, like a homemade cheese sauce. Last week they made homemade muffins. And so like Eric's trying to give things that they can actually make at home. Art class, they have art. We are not offering for K through 6 the welding woodshop class. But the kids are really enjoying it, and we're getting 15 to 20. And so I'm gonna work with Mr. Rothenberger to continue. I think we'll probably continue these 2 classes and see if somebody wants to add one more in. But it's great. Like I said, like I was looking at these knife skills and I was like, holy, but we're working on it.
It's definitely a skill.
Oh yeah, to me that's a skill that you can always, you know, that can help also grow Mr. Eric's culinary class, you know, Mr. Stevens culinary or Mr. Stevens woodshop. Those are skills that we can grow, and the kids love it. It's great to see them.
Well, you don't know how many fingernails go in food because of not having the proper knife skills. I know.
We're
Not
doing-
mine. I have all mine. I have those skills.
We're doing the STEM. Chris Singer from the Valley STEM and CTE Hub has actually been coming out twice a week. The kids love it. They just did beatbox and they loved it. But I wanted to share with you the feedback that he sent me, and it was completely out of the blue. And I don't think they'd really been coming to Alcy for the past couple years. And in my super meeting, Mr. Noss from Corvallis was like, Christy, you really need to meet these people. So we got a connection and they're coming out now. And I wanted to share the email I got from Mr. Singer about how much he really likes coming out and how much our teachers really are coordinating well and working well with him. And I thought that was great to really recognize my teachers. They do love it. And he's leading beatbox out here. So I'm pretty sure we're going to find them everywhere for the little kids and the big kids, and talking about coding. And then the 3rd graders went to OMSI and they can't quit talking about it. They loved it. So yeah, so that was our month. We have been quite busy and running wild with all of them.
Well, thank you. Up next, we have our Learn at Home Principal Report, Ms. Shunk.
Hi, hello everyone.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
Hold on.
so
Oh, there she-
can you hear me?
There we go. Now we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. All right. Let me see if I can get my little headset going. Okay, so we have some really neat things happening right before March spring break. We're in that kind of stretch mode and trying to get work through a lot of things, and I'm very proud with what's happening in our school. Thank you, Krista, for going through all of the data for iReady. We are working on that daily. We have a get to green is our key phrase that we use, and students know, just like when you're riding a bike, when you're learning to ride a bike, you have to practice, and there's things that you have to do. You have to do a little bit practice every day. So we're using that story and that connection to get kids to make sure that they are getting on iReady and focusing on their reading and math. For some kids, they just absolutely, well, actually, for most of our students, they really just love it. And for others, it takes that partnership with families. And we're grateful for the partnership and communication that we have with families to ensure that we're getting that done. So we had our heart character trait Student of the Month assembly in February, and then our upcoming one is focused on the character trait of leadership and what that looks like, and we'll have that on the 21st, right before spring break. We have an exciting author talk that's going to happen on April 2nd, and Mr. Roberts and I are figuring out how to make this available for the entire district for both elementary pieces and doing that on Zoom. So we're trying to figure out how to have a collaborative assembly with this author talk. So we're working on that. Genius Hour is something that I've talked about previously. It's a big piece of my heart, and it is going in all of our elementary classes, and I am so grateful. I'm grateful for the work that the teachers are doing and the parents at home. I included some pictures for you to see. So in our first grade class, they've started these kind of like a micro version of Genius Hour where they're teaching each other stuff. That's the essential piece of Genius Hour, one of the essential pieces. But in the example that I shared, we had Maya who was teaching from her kitchen. And this is that beauty of online learning, right from home. So she's right there in her kitchen. Her mom was right there. She had everything prepared. And then while she was doing that, since she had already sent out the specific recipe to everybody and the teacher supported that, all of the students at home were baking along with her. And this is really what has captured my attention with this online option for families. It was really wonderful to see. I was right in there. I made my own brownies. And then the first grade class uses Class Dojo. And so I included some of the snips from Class Dojo where the parents were, engaged and wanting to share their experience at home, which was absolutely lovely. So I'm really, really excited about that. And then in our second grade class, so Genius Hour really embodies autonomy and curiosity and 21st century skills of, research and presentation. And so, for example, in our second grade class, kids are thinking about, Godzilla, and they want to know about penguins. And then down in our kindergarten class, they were coming up with their questions to ask for theirs. So what are volcanoes made out of? Why do unicorns have magic? I mean, all of this stuff that just draws their attention. And what Genius Hour has shown in the research about it is that it drives up engagement across the curriculum. So students feel very empowered and excited about learning, and then they take that and it transfers as they're learning all of their other subjects. So it has a incredibly positive impact, and I'm grateful to see it happening in all of our classes now. We just finished our formal observation process, which was which was wonderful. I explained a little bit about that. And full circle, we had our meetings, we discussed, there was a lot of really great conversation and ideas. And I'm really grateful for the creative process that also brings in. Mid-year parent feedback, I sent out a feedback form asking about different aspects of our program as we are thinking about the future and thinking about next year and what that looks like. These families are highly engaged. Like I've said before, they sit right next to the computer, most of them actually. And so they're right in that. And so I want them to feel that their voice is respected, appreciated, heard. And so we're getting a lot of really wonderful feedback from families that we are then taking and processing ourselves and thinking about, what we can continue to do to develop this program. And then our early registration is out there, and I just checked, and we have, I'm really excited about this, everybody. And this is such a difference from last year at this time. So we're getting our registrations are rolling in. So I'm really proud about what we've been able to accomplish in the first week of that starting. And so I'm grateful for Krista getting that going early this year. And we're excited to start planning for next year. Any questions?
I just love your excitement.
Thanks.
This is so fun.
Do you
Thank
know, Ristine, I literally have to go, okay, calm it down, calm it down. Because I really am. I mean, honestly, I really am. I'm excited.
Board meetings are not always exciting. So thank you for bringing that energy.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for seeing that and feeling that for me. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rothenberger, big shoes to fill now.
Oh my goodness, I don't know if I could fill those shoes at all. I mean, Krista stole a bunch of my material and my spunk from me. But hey, let's see what we can do from behind the principal's desk here of 712. Seems like this past month has moved along very quickly. As you saw in your notes, I wrote that. We're kind of seeing that students are getting kind of stagnant in the classroom and pushing the limits a little bit on rules. So as a staff, we got together, had a staff meeting, talked about what we're going to do to improve those with some remedies. And we I went through each classroom and talked about the rules that we're going to uphold. And, they didn't really want to hear the no cell phone and no earbuds and stuff, but we're definitely following policy there and holding our students to it. Kayla and I have been meeting. Kayla's been doing a tremendous job of meeting with students, particularly regarding the grades and making sure our seniors are prepared to walk across that stage. She's just active every day, doing a great job. I'll go through each section here and just kind of briefly talk about some things. Right now, our CTE and AG's really rolling. Our welding students, they built 2 fire pits. Middle school students are doing very well with their shop safety and starting some projects. You walk in there and there's kids all over the classroom, all over the shop doing different things. Ag mechanics is learning basic household wiring skills. And then ag science is gearing up for spring and planting projects. High school PE and health classes. Handball unit was pretty interesting to watch. Got pretty competitive along with floor hockey. Had a few injuries of floor hockey, but it's always a positive thing. Along with that, I'd like to make sure that you guys see that tonight we provided you with some supplemental work right there. Great body shop that in our health classes that Ricky Hendricks is really using 7th, 8th middle school health. It's current up-to-date topics and it's geared towards Oregon health standards. And so I used it as a teacher and she's using it and she's finding that the articles are good and she's using her health class. So provide some information there that you guys can take a look at so you guys see what we're doing there. Social studies, history classes are doing well. As we get farther into the semester, 7th, 10th, and 11th grade are doing great. 8th grade's coming along. Video productions added some new kids, so they got a few new ideas there. Science, 7th grade science has been working, this is really cool, on a forensic science unit. Students will begin work on their final projects, their own miniature crime scene. These will be produced in a shoebox, and other groups will have to try and solve the crimes. So that's in Mr. Harris's science class. Artwork, Deb, how's your cafe sign? I think it's coming along. It's gonna be done here in the next 2 weeks.
The other day. It's really cool.
So I've only seen a little tiny bit.
Yeah.
Mr. Lynch is holding my excitement back by not letting me see very much. And so
Look.
I can't tell you how excited I am for what his class is doing. So I only got to see a little bit of an outline, but I'm really excited. I had
It's
to go out
good. I can tell you the wood's rejuvenated. The paint looks bright. It's going very well.
Yeah, he was in today and he said, "You're gonna love it." I'm like, "Can I see?" No.
Well, I hope he didn't get any fingernails in his sandwich today. So
Nope. And actually, he had biscuits and gravy, so no fingers. I got them all.
okay. After school pottery, kids love it with him, and just our after school programs. You know, Krista already touched base on it, but it's great seeing those kids in there cooking and going in the shop and stuff, and just makes it tough on us with all our activity bus runs going every direction. But it's really good. Graphic design class begins this week with the Alcee Grange. They're going to start working on the Alcee Grange sign. Moving over to the next page, English. As a result of analyzing our iReady data, our high school students are experiencing an increase in rigor in English class. They've moved away from the basic comprehension as our goal and shifted our focus to actually analyzing and critical thinking. And kids are really enjoying it in there. Culinary, it's already talked about. Eric's doing a tremendous job. Kids are active in there. Math, Algebra 2 and Geometry are doing well. And Algebra 1 students have shown a massive improvement. And we're working hard in our math right now. Athletics, just to as you know, winter sports are completed. Our girls made a good run there, trying to get third place. Played a close game, lost by 2. Middle school boys B team took second place at the district tournament. Middle school boys A team won the championship for the Mountain West middle school tournament, which was great. It was up at McKenzie. I went up there. Man, it was fun to watch. I didn't get to see the last game, but I did get to see the second to last game. They good bunch of boys right there. We currently have 3 boys that are tracking over to Monroe every day to join their baseball team. Mr. Croson is being very generous there and working with our kids. High school track practice, our numbers up to around 10, 12 kids. And Mr. Roberts doing a tremendous job there. First meet is tomorrow up at Dallas. And then middle school track, Ricky Hendricks will be doing that, and she starts on Monday. Our youth basketball, I don't know if you guys ever saw any of those games, 1 through 4th grade. They finished up 2 weeks ago, but doing a good job there. Thanks to Joy Jordan, organizing a lot of that. And then Mrs. Ellis has started getting the prom ready, organizing the prom. And so we're looking for a date, and it looks like it'll be the Saturday after state track. It's hard to find dates with all our activities going on. Once again, I just want to talk about Kayla and the job she's doing as an academic advisor. She gave me a big paragraph here, but I won't say much. I just want you to know she's out working daily, getting kids to get passing grades and be on track to graduate. And it's really boosting our end of the building for us. Transportation. I don't know if you saw the new cute little bus that we got today, but we got a Type 20 today, brand new. Bus 9. It's a 14 passenger plus a driver. It's really gonna help us out on sporting events particularly, so we don't have to take the big bus. So Krista was excited to walk out and take a look at that one today. It's awesome. So
I had to be. Bart, I took some of Bart's spunk because I walked out and he was like, "This is it." I thought it would be big.
I was a little upset. Okay, I thought it'd be a little
Not
bigger.
I thought it was a dually, and I was like,
I thought it was a dually, and it came back as but it's gonna be great for us, to be honest. And yeah, I was a little negative, Nelly. There, sorry, my bad.
I had to
But
be positive for you, Mr. Rothenberger.
yeah, you pulled it out for me. Hey, I think that's it for the principal's report. We have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I want to just say one thing about athletics really quick. Not that it's always the most important thing, but it's not if we win, but how we win. Our girls did an amazing job losing against Eddyville. It's a hard team to play because we have a lot of relationships with those parents and the staff members over there. But we did win before that, and it was really great. But our boys also down in it McKenzie where the tournament was
Mhm.
for the 8th grade? The feedback on how they won a game that was fought hard. Thank you for building that culture from coaches to students. Winning with grace is so important. It shows so much character. So thank you to those students and thank you to leading that with those kids and the coaches.
Yeah, they did. It's a great point. Thank you for seeing. Hey, I left something off that I need to talk about and I met with a person that coached it for 18 years yesterday. OSET, our equestrian team. And I apologize. I wasn't trying to leave them off because I love it. But OSET, we had 4 or 5 girls that competed this past weekend. They've done 2 events so far. I think only actually 3 competed this past weekend. But it's a real positive thing, club for our girls and for our equestrian team. So they're doing a great job representing Alcy also.
I encourage you to go and watch. It's a lot of fun to watch.
It is. I agree with you. I've only been to
A lot of
one,
fun.
and yeah, but
All right. Thank you so much.
you bet.
All right. You are up, Mr. Staley. I know so much excitement to come, right? Here we go.
Oh, hey, I got to tell you guys, we did our budget today, and Mr. Staley is amazing to work with, and I provided him great numbers, and he was fun to work with today.
I
Steal it, Kim's trying to steal your show.
I second that.
Mr. Rothberger, I'd like to thank you for being a fearless leader for our athletic department athletics here, but congratulations on your hard fought second place battle over the weekend as well.
Yes,
Thank
congratulations.
you. Appreciate it.
Well deserved. Financial statements, I can't talk with that enthusiasm as the other two. It's not a really exciting topic, but what I'm going to tell you is this is the format you've been seeing. Next month, I will provide you a summary and this format and make some graphs so you can see comparisons and have it rather than me just talk, and then I'll go over that. Maybe it'll generate questions so I can get as excited as Bart and Heather. So we'll go from that, but I will go over it briefly right now and just go over the highlight of anything changed. It's roughly the same. As I said, we encumber everything. And hopefully with Bren and Roxy and Kristen, everybody, we're all on the same path. We know what we're doing. We've got our processes down. We've got our procedures down. And I think everybody's learned along the way. I've eliminated probably 2,000 accounts. And because I don't like all the numbers when people don't know what the numbers mean. And so you get down to the basics with the ODE ones and work backwards and makes everybody understand. And it's easier to budget and it's easier to explain and find information. With that said, the front sheet, I just want to go over the highlights. It's really, the state has not updated the 22-23 state school support yet. That is coming. And what I understood today is that they will be updating the 23-24 and 22-23 in the next month. So I will have where we're at. I've been projecting, but when we get actual numbers, I'll see how close we are. And that'll help us in the budget process. You also see on there the earnings that we're making in interest compared to budget. You say, whoa, well, that's because we have the fund balance. Last year, interest rates were less than 1%. This year, we're getting 5% at the local governmental pool. And so what we're based on that, that's why we're having that kind of interest earnings. But that won't hold true as we use that money. Plus, we're completing the bond. And so there's $2 million right off the top of that. And I do allocate money to the bond also each month because that's what you're supposed to do. Because that's money earned by those monies generated from the grant and from the bonds that are sold. Other than that, everything is the same in there. Like Bart said, we're developing the budget. We know now that we've been here for a while, I understand the funds, where they're coming from, what they were. We've gone through the audit, and you'll be hearing that from David soon on the audit going over that. Any questions on the revenue? Expenditures, roughly the same. Like I said, Krista mentioned the early literacy. We've gone gone back to October. That's not reflected in here. But next month it will be reflected. We've moved all those salaries over that qualify for that. And there, I think right now, what I shared with Krista, ran the reports, there's about $18,000 is going to be left in early intervention that she'll be professional. There's nothing really changed on this. We're going to have spring sports coming on to this, so that will be in there. The track positions from, so they aren't in here, but they will be in there now that I have. They are. The overages are and the unders. That's because we've gone through and done things differently. And have any questions on those? But they were there last month. I'm trying to act excited about this. So let's get you guys going.
Act excited about the imbalance.
I know, I get
It's a
excited.
big one.
Well, it's a lifesaver for this district.
Yeah.
And we have to look at it that way. It gives you 2 to 3 years to plan where your attendance is going to be, where your expenditures are going to be, and sooner or later you're going to have to match that. And then the board's going to have to decide what kind of fund balance they want as a minimum when you budget. That is a board decision. You know, as an accountant, I get excited when you have money there because then you don't sweat.
Right.
But when you don't, I've been there when you don't have it and you sweat. And you're worried about all your numbers from the state school support and everything, and that's where I got my gray hair. So, but with that said, you'll see, I want to show one thing, the supplemental retirement program, that's an agreement that the board had with one of their staff. That staff member just turned 65 this month, so there's no more expenses on that. So that wasn't budgeted, but we had to pay it, and that's where it's supposed to be expended. So those are done as of now. And you'll see on there, be transparent, it's around 6 million ending that fund balance. You want to be transparent on that. But you also have to be open on how you're going to use those dollars. Okay. Any questions?
I thought the gray hair was wisdom, not,
No.
it's not wisdom.
No, it's not
No.
wisdom.
Krista came to us with it, so it's not all us.
Same format. I guess I like this format. I saw something today on Frontline. I was not aware. There is a program out there that is through the Lynn Denton ESD, where you have all those comparatives in various districts and various things. And so I took a little hour and they populated it for LC. And so I can get graphs and all this stuff. I always thought that we had to pay for it. It's very costly, but it's provided by Lynn Denton.
Through our contract.
No, through the
Tier 1 services.
Tier 1 services, and that's not been in any other district in the state that I have. They've always had to pay for it directly. So, which is a plus, and I can do for various things and do comparisons. But
Get all excited.
no, I don't.
Oh. I was helping you there.
No, I don't get excited because there's so much there that you have to take so much time to learn it all. I want to learn the basics to get the information that you guys want.
Yeah.
And do it that way, and then I can use it that way rather than using all that other stuff out there that I don't think is that's my opinion. But anyway, here you see all the grants here, and the early literacy is the 227, and we've got that approved, and we've moved the staff, and there's 18,000, like I said, left, and that everything else is the same. We have with Nathan is excited. We've got E-rate monies. We've got $28,000 for last year on E-rate. And he has just submitted bids and various things for E-rate for next year. And Nathan is deal with that. And but with that said, him and Krista are planning how to use those dollars to provide support for the classroom. That's what they're for, not to offset, not the supplant, but the support. And then you can go right down the line in all of those. And I projected where the food service is going to be, and Chris is working with Eric. Eric's the champ on that, and we're working with Corvallis and trying to get our costs down per meal and figure out how to make that efficient. And then we're going through, and Krista will say what it exactly is. I think it's the community eligibility program, and that opens up on April 1st.
That's how we get the free for all
Yeah.
students breakfast and lunch.
And we have to qualify for that. And hopefully we're right at the border and work with DOT, but we'll make it. So, those numbers today.
Offset those that didn't qualify for to pay for their food? No, because we wouldn't be able to charge the full price.
Yeah, but it depends on their economic level, and they would have to submit applications to get, if they weren't on a direct search, they'd have to submit an application.
And so we might miss some kids
Yeah, so,
who would be able to eat for free.
and you wanna be on the seat, for administrative, everything, and I have a hard time personally that, you provide transportation, providing food service. Every kid should eat.
Mhm.
And
I
that's
totally
just-
agree.
That's the way I feel, and I've been in where kids don't eat because they don't have the money, but they have the flight. It's a nightmare. So,
Plus
my
the
thing-
social stigma.
yeah,
I mean, in schools where you have to qualify, them kids that pay, there's a social stigma that you can't,
Totally.
I think it's better all around, so.
Yeah, I do too, and Krista and I, 62% of the kids eat here.
Yeah, so we need, that number will help us. If we increase the participation, we're gonna decrease the amount we're taking out of our pocket.
Right, and I
So,
keep telling
Just give them
Krista,
pizza every day.
Listen,
I say,
You're talking my language.
it's all free.
I mean,
It
seriously.
comes down, is it the quality of the food, or is it they don't want to eat in the here, or whatever, but Chris is working with Eric on that, trying to, that's a number, as you look for education, that, to me, that number from a financial, that's where I get excited when it goes up higher, in participation. So, that's, Krista, I give Krista those numbers every month, so she knows exactly where we're at.
So currently you have to buy food for every student, whether they eat it or not. Is that
No,
the-
so what Eric does in the morning is, he asks, he gets numbers of who wants to eat
And then
what.
makes that.
And then he makes that much, and then
Okay.
he tries to use so he knows if we've had this specific meal, he has data, and so he'll order it that
Okay.
much.
And if you did a true analysis, because we're on mealtime, you can see the same kids eat every day.
Right, right.
And you roughly know, it's so consistent all the time, so.
Mm.
Then we go to the debt service, that's just paying your bond and that we have, and I'll be, during the budget process, I'll tell you, we're trying to keep the levy flat, the rate, we don't want it to go up and down, so I've already shared that, we'll be working on that. Chris has already talked about, the capital projects, the dollars with you and that, on that, and then, bond right now, Chris and Nancy do a great job, we balance every month, and I give her my statements, and, they'll be going over the bond on the next one, I'm not gonna quote that, but, that's where we're at.
Perfect.
Can't get as excited as Heather, though.
We're working on it.
No, you will never.
Okay, that's super funny. I don't know if anyone can get as excited as me. I'll just say that. I mean,
I'm doing a side note, Krista had to leave, and we were going, and I gave her my sheet, and she started going on, I said, I just want the number, and we went right down the line, tell me that, I don't need all the other stuff.
I don't know
Right.
about you guys, but I hear a challenge. Everybody has to live up to Heather's excitement. Hear that. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us into a bond update. So Mr. and Mrs. Giggy.
Good evening, folks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, great. Yep. We're on the road today, so just coming at you through Zoom. Do you have our report and our financials there?
Yes.
Great, great. So actually, we do have some more exciting news. I think Heather just set the tone for the whole meeting. So we do have finally, you guys have suffered through so much of all of this in the last long year and a half where we've tried to get things back on track. Finally, this month, we are starting construction on the CTE building. And so we have a kickoff meeting Monday with Todd Construction on site. And they've been busy since we got them under contract a month and a half ago. They've been doing all the purchasing and submittal review, and there have been a lot of questions back and forth with the architect. So they've been very busy. They're doing a good job getting ramped up on things. But we're really going to start rolling now. And one small piece of that Nancy has been mentioning to Krista and perhaps Ristine, was a groundbreaking ceremony. So next week, they're going to be mobilizing, kind of getting things warmed up. They'll actually have excavation equipment on site Friday, the 22nd. And we thought that would be a great day. We can get some gold shovels. We can get some hard hats. It'd be terrific to get for those that can be there, or however you'd like to do it. It'd be great to get a picture that we could put in the Valley Boys. It doesn't need to be a big ceremony, or if you want it to be, if you want the kids to come out, however you want to do it. But it's really an ideal time because there won't be a lot of construction going on. The week after that, they're going to start rolling and they're going to start hitting it hard. They're going to be excavating out in that area. They're going to be digging for utilities, and we're going to roll. So I'll leave that with you, but please, if you'll let us know, coordinate with Nancy early next week, we can arrange shovels and pictures and things like that. In the report on the second page, you'll see kind of an abbreviated schedule. Todd has put together a master schedule, lots of lines, lots of details. If anybody would like to see it, we'll get it to you.
Hey,
But
Chris,
that's the summary.
Chris, can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah, please.
This, the report you guys had emailed to you is not on, your board packet. We're sorry about that. It
Oops.
will be on our website though.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, tell you what, thank you for letting me know. That way you don't have the second page. Let me just give you, if I could take just a minute of your time, I'll give you the brief overview of it, if that'd be all right.
Go for it.
Just boil down the big master schedule, but basically in April, they're gonna, like I say, they're gonna start digging in the end of March. In April, we're gonna be doing footings, and they're gonna do the getting ready for the slab. We're gonna be pouring the slab in early May. The metal building gets delivered mid-May, and the erection is May and early June. We're gonna be installing doors and windows in June. Then we get into all the interiors after that. And then final finishes are in early August. Right now, we've got August 18th as our substantial completion date for move-in. There'll still be some work going on after that, but that's when we can start moving in equipment for the shop. So that's the plan right now. And everything, we've had some long lead issues. We've worked those out with suppliers, and right now we're still on track for those dates. Also, regarding the electrical and HVAC upgrade, we had a warm-up meeting with CB Construction. The electrician will be here the week of spring break, the last week of the month, to do some excavation and conduit work while kids aren't in school. And right now, we're still looking on track. They checked on the delivery of that long lead switchgear that we've been waiting on for a year. And that was still scheduled to arrive in April. And then installation is April, May. That won't interrupt the school facilities. But as Krista mentioned earlier in the meeting, we are planning a shutdown. It could be as long as 3 weeks. We believe it'll be shorter, but we're planning for the worst and prepared for that. And that'll start at the last week of June. And at that same time, around then, we'll also be doing the final piece of the HVAC construction, which is the gym ducting and the rooftop unit that serves the gym. Everything else has been installed, just waiting for the electrical to be finished so we can start that up. So a lot of things coming together at the end of July and August. It'll be a mad scramble. So as we go along in our reports, what you'll be seeing starting next month is pictures of the construction. We'll be adding that in there with details. And what we always like to do is, if we have an opportunity, especially for high school students, maybe CTE or something, certainly staff as well, but we can schedule tours. We really want to, and we'll share this again with everybody and talk with Krista more in detail, but we don't want people to wander out there where the construction's going on. That's not a good idea. Standing outside the fence is great, but we can schedule tours around the construction activities with you, with groups of people or even community, to go inside the construction area and see. It's kind of cool. It's not a big building, but it'll still be fun to see those elements, especially once we start the interiors. And that's pretty much it on the bond activities. As far as the bond financials, do you have those in your packet?
Yes.
Okay, great. not a whole lot of change on expenses from last month. We have all the committed costs. We haven't had much change. The one change, and Don alluded to this earlier, is the bond interest has been accruing every month. And as he gives that to us, we're putting it in here. So right now, thankfully, our contingency has grown. If you remember, that was a pretty small figure, but we're up to 85,000 right now in owner's contingency. That's ours to control for any unforeseen costs that might come along. So that's good to see that grow. Any other questions on the bond at all, or the financials?
Can you tell me if that contingency is not utilized, if those funds can be rolled into district funds to provide additional, say, equipment or furnishings or anything inside of the
Yeah.
VOC?
Yeah, exactly. So what we do is we're going to watch those closely. We're going to guard them, and we're gonna. That's part of our job, is to really watch any costs strictly. A lot of those are either the contractor's responsibility, or if there's some real issues with the design, that may be architect's responsibilities. This is for unforeseen issues, and our goal is to preserve as much of that as possible. So it's not committed right now. It's just being held in case it's needed. The type of thing we might use it on is if we start digging out there, we find a utility that we didn't think was there. Now we've got to reroute that utility. That would be a cost that we'd have to incur.
I don't think that answered my question.
You
So I
can.
understand what it's used for and why it's there, but if it's not utilized and we don't have any secrets or
You can-
unforeseen pop up, if you can utilize it.
You can.
for-
You can use
Yeah.
it for.
And after, I wouldn't use it during the project. If we get to the end of the project and we're just doing finishes and we're through all the surprises, yes, then we could release the available funds. So that's going to be really July timeframe before you'd want to use any
Right.
remaining funds there.
But
Right,
there are
I was just-
guidelines on what we can use it for, correct?
Oh, it's the money that we could use for improvements. If we were, I don't know that we could
Like
use
for the
it for
windows.
anything,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah,
Right, so,
anything
so my
like that.
question on that, I think, doesn't that have to come back to the board to prioritize? It can't, it's not just an operational decision. The board would prioritize how that additional fund, those funds would be used.
That's
I
right.
mean,
Nancy,
like, we could go, like we would talk, and if there's an upgrade that they could do and we know, then we would come back and say, hey, there's an upgrade.
Yeah, I hope that happens.
Now, I do want, when we talk about equipment and things for the CT building, it's written in, we have money in the SIA. There is money in there, and Bart has been working with Mr. Stevens to prioritize what we're buying. So we know we're gonna buy new furniture. So that's coming out. We know Mr. Stevens has been working on building things, so we don't have to pay for them. But different types of equipment. So we do have other pots of money, but this money will go to help with upgrades. But I believe, Dawn, did you say it has to be, whatever we spend it on has to be within the bond language?
I think the language, I haven't read the bond language, all bonds I've dealt with, there's always kind of a general.
Mhm.
And if there's dollars left, yes. Come to the board, I would think, and make sure.
So potentially, Mr. Gigi, we talked about in some of our BOC stuff, additional priorities that the board had. Those funds do they have to be spent by a certain time frame, or could those be potentially dog-eared for that certified kitchen? Because I know that was one of the priorities. I can't remember the placement of the priority on the board's list, but
And those priorities might change, right? Like based on how much money there is, or what?
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine that they,
Okay.
but yes, yeah, I think that you're absolutely
Mhm.
right. Gina,
Okay.
the bond oversight committee, and I did see that, Mr. Gigi, in there too, that we need to have a conversation about restarting the VOC meetings. I saw that in the notes.
yeah, the purpose of the bond oversight committee is really to get into details of the construction that really are beyond the 10 or 15 minutes we talked about with the board. So we are certainly open to, if there's a group that would like to do that and just hash out the details and hear about all the intricacies of what's going on every month, we'd be happy to do that with you.
We want you guys to follow up.
Well, I guess I need to understand if what they're currently doing is sufficient for any of those requirements. Wasn't there a public requirement for an oversight committee?
I believe there is a public requirement that you should have one. I mean, it's good practice, I'll be honest with you. So if you guys, if we want to restart it to where we come every month and we talk about progress and where money is spent, and we could do that. That's what it sounds like.
The
But is-
board or the bond oversight committee?
Bond oversight.
I feel like it's probably
still
a
have
good
one?
idea, just based on the history, just to have someone looking at the progress.
I mean, do we still have that committee? Are you the only one on it besides them?
No, as far as I know, nothing was ever dissolved, but Cheryl Lynn Living was
Oh,
the
okay.
chair.
Uh,
They just quit meeting because nothing was happening, right?
Yeah, yeah, and there was a lot of stagnant time and
Yeah, now that there's a schedule that has a lot of stuff on it, it would be ideal, I think, to have
Yeah.
people watching that.
And there's nothing to say that you can't still sit on that as a board member even. So,
In
So
fact, it's
I
always
will-
advisable, I'm sorry, it's always advisable to have a board member attend the BOC and that person come back and can speak to, we'll certainly continue to do our reports, but to have that person speak to anything else that might be of a concern to the board. I could have Nancy talk to Cheryl and look at initiating that, getting it restarted.
And I'll keep in touch with Chris and Nancy too and report back to the board. Okay. Does that work?
That works.
I do think it'd be good, yes, to touch base with Cheryl. And
agreed.
does anybody have any objection to that? It's not a votable thing, but
And I think I would not like to wear a two-hat role. So if you could mention Chris in that they could potentially find another secretary for that. I'm glad to still participate as a board member, but I don't feel comfortable wearing two hats.
I think the board that BOC would kind of need to reconfigure a little bit, so we'll talk to her and see what we can do to get it started.
thank you. Any other questions?
Ristine, would you like me to talk about the Resilience Hub now, or is that for later in the agenda?
We have it down in the new business, Chris.
Great. Thanks,
Thank
folks.
you. All right, so next up is our monthly enrollment.
Okay, so I attached to the agenda the most recent enrollment effective March the 1st. You can see that it's kind of having a little bit of a dip. We're pretty much holding steady, but that dip is definitely there in a couple of areas. Part of it is because of truancy drops or families going back to their home district. So that holding good. And then next for the safety committee, we're continuing to meet every month. Just kind of keeping an eye on things. We will be doing another quarterly walkthrough to make sure that things are going okay. We've added additional gravel to the playground to kind of resolve some of that. And gonna do a fire drill. So much fun.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move into new business. Our audit is up first. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'd like to- Is he on the screen there?
He is on
I'd
the
like to
screen.
introduce David Bledsoe. He has been the head auditor along with Nicole Darcy. We got the audit, it's been filed with the Secretary of State, and I reconciled everything with the ODE, and so now it's the time to present it. I know it's a little later than normal. But we wanted to make sure everything was perfect. And I'll pass it on to David. He can go through it. You can ask him any questions.
Thank you. Welcome, David. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Don. Good to see you as always. Thank you for having me this evening. As Don mentioned, my name is David. I'm one of the senior audit supervisors here over at Polly Rogers CPA firm. and I helped out and principally did most of the audit work here on the 22-23 audit report. I want to briefly walk you through the board letter if you have a chance to take a peek at that. That has kind of the highlight reel of the audit. You direct your attention to page 2. There's a results of audit section right there at the top. That describes essentially what we saw from a 30,000 foot view. The first item there does bring attention to the modified opinion letter. The opinion letter is modified not for anything we saw wrong in day-to-day bookkeeping, but rather the lack of implementation of 2 accounting standards, GASB Statement 75 and 96. GASB Statement 96 was the new big ticket item this year for fiscal 22-23. We briefly discussed this at an earlier board meeting. As a reminder of what that standard does, it looks to value the contracts that you signed and the payments within them for subscriptions over a period of time. You're going to pay for things like Zoom licenses, Microsoft Office over that period of time. So the value of the payments to come is captured as a liability, and the commensurate asset you're receiving for that payment stream is shown as an asset. The district did not implement that. It is unfortunately a very large documentation exercise for districts across the state, and was a rather large headache this year. I know talking with Don, we're looking at implementing that for the subsequent fiscal period. In addition, GASB Statement 75 was not implemented. This one hasn't been implemented for several years now. This one requires paying an outside actuary to evaluate certain post-employment benefits for your employees. During the earlier board meeting we discussed, this was really related to the cost incurred from that actuary to get that report. Outside of that, we found really nothing to bring to your attention. During the actual audit, the numbers were prepared consistent with accounting policy and were neutral, clear, and free of material misstatement. We did issue a management letter in addition. That is reflective of the timing, excuse me, not the timing, but rather the documentation surrounding bank recs. All the bank reconciliations that we looked at were prepared appropriately and were free of error. However, they just didn't have the date in which they were done properly shown on that. So unfortunately, the other control is inherent more reliance upon it. So we discussed that with Don, and they've already corrected that going forwards. The next period of they will be all essentially dated when he did them. Outside of that, there are a couple best practice comments. These are not significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that need to be shown to the state. These are just general reminders to the board. The first one is covering governing body monitoring. As the elected officials, we do encourage consistent and increasing amounts of oversight to the extent that you feel appropriate over the financial operations. The second one is over fidelity insurance. This is something I discuss with nearly every entity in the state of Oregon that we work with. The reality is through PACE, you cannot get enough fidelity insurance for the amount of cash that almost any district of size carries at any point of time. It's just a reminder to the board that you do have a certain coverage threshold, and you should consider finding it appropriate at the board level to make sure that you're happy with that insurance level. And the third one is reflective of the size of the entity. Don wears many hats over there. And unfortunately, the small business office, you do have limited abilities to really truncate separation of duties between individuals. So certain folks, such as Don, do have to wear a couple hats there. So you can't get quite a perfect 3 individual separation of internal controls. Outside of that, as far as what we looked at during the audit, all the checks look fine. There was backup for everything. Payroll records were kept cleared. This year, as Don alluded to earlier, there was a healthy growth in the ending fund balance of the general fund. So you do have that nice buffer there as you look towards future periods. Happy to answer any questions that the board may have or kind of dig into any of the numbers as you're curious.
Well, I'm happy to say that we've read the information and that we don't have questions. So that is great news. Thank you to everybody for being prepared. David, I don't think we have any questions.
Alrighty, if there's nothing else, thank you for having this evening.
So we do have to do a resolution, correct? I'm correct on that. Yep. And I believe I get to read this entire thing, and then you guys get to make a motion on it.
Oh, she said you don't have. He said you don't have to read.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Before we go through this resolution,
Yes.
what I do want to say is next board meeting, Dawn, Bryn, Roxy and I have been making written procedures that we are going to present to the board that address those deficiencies and how we will address them as a district office.
And I've also got information from the Telephone. Up there. That will bring all those.
Thank you. All right, so is there a motion to consider for the Alcee School District 7J Resolution 24.06 revised?
So do you want the resolution accepting the filing of the external? Do you want that header as
You just
part
have
Can
to
we
of?
say Resolution 2406?
Okay,
as
so I'll make a
presented?
motion to accept the resolution 24-606 as presented.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve. Is there a second? All right, there's a second. Is there any discussion? All right, Laura, can you do a roll call vote?
Okay, let's do roll. Russ,
Yes.
Deb? Yes. Christine?
Yes.
Soren?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Let's move into the resiliency grant. Before we go through anything, do you want Mr. Giggy to present or will you present?
I'm gonna have Mr. Gigi to present.
Okay.
All right, I'm back again. You hear me okay?
We can?
Okay, great. You should have, did you,
It's big.
We do have it attached. It looks like it's loading for most of us.
Yeah, I
okay,
opened it earlier, but it's loading again. That's
Krista
pretty
stole all the bandwidth on her computer. It's fine.
yeah, and that handout that I think it's a core competencies, is that what it is?
Yes.
The
Yes.
core components, yeah. It's kind of a very high level overview of it. I can tell you what it means for the school. Let me give you, if I could, just 2 seconds of background here. So Benton County Emergency Management got wind of an EPA grant, a lot of federal funds that were going to be available throughout the country to create these resilience hubs in areas, rural and in cities. They contacted Alcee through the ACE board, and they identified in this county, Alcee, Monroe, and Wren, that they wanted to apply for a grant. And then with those 3 communities, split the money up to create facilities. And it's really for building elements that would support communities on a day-to-day basis. The idea behind these resilience hubs is this isn't some empty building that just sits there 99% of the time. It's something that is useful to the community, but also when a natural disaster emergency occurs, wildfire, earthquake, something else, that, okay, great, that becomes the hub where these resources are available. So they contacted ACE. ACE asked me to join them to provide some PM guidance. And we had an initial meeting with Benton County. They were initially thinking like the health center or the library might be where they would create this hub. As we started discussing it more, it became apparent that was not going to be a good application. The library, the health center is in the wrong place, doesn't have the right facilities, and neither does the library. But as we discussed it, it became apparent the school really does. In fact, the school has served in the past and really has a lot of the facilities that would support the community in an emergency. And really where the exciting part here is some of the features that are key to a resilience hub that would need to be constructed with this money are a commercial kitchen, which we've been talking about for some time. Very exciting. Power backup systems, solar, battery, generator, additional restrooms and showers, some storage for emergency supplies, and some other elements to it. So the grant is for a minimum of $10 million, maximum of 20. They're thinking of applying for kind of on the lower end in the hopes of being more competitive, and that would be divided equally between the 3 communities. And so we're talking about a grant potentially in the $3 to $4 million range that would serve Alcee. And through this discussion, and Krista got involved as we started talking about the school, we contacted her and pulled it into the meetings with Benton County and ACE. And about that time, we had a meeting with the ACE board, and they just felt like it really, they weren't in a position to support this. Unfortunately, the school can't work directly with Benton County just because of some of the requirements of the grant. It needs to go through a nonprofit 501c3. But fortunately, Krista had contacts with Benton Community Foundation, and those folks are very excited. In fact, their board meeting is tonight. We've met with them, and we had discussions. They're meeting with their board this evening. And just as we are bringing this to you to see if you would like to proceed with this, they are talking to their board about it. Now, they would act as the sponsor for this, if you will, and they will, for a fee, provide the administration, kind of oversight, and the financial, so sort of the business management, cut the checks and things like that. The rest of it, managing the projects, they would leave to us, which is great because we really don't want them to manage our project. Anyway, the great thing is the grant doesn't have any cost to the school. And so this, the grant, they're going to be applying for it in the next couple of months. It's primarily that we would just need to prepare some information and support them with some diagrams and some things like that. So there's no commitment if the grant doesn't go through. The school isn't out anything, but if it is awarded, be very exciting. We don't know a lot of the details of, other than the fact that we do know with federal funds, you know, we have Davis-Bacon and some other requirements. We do, Nancy and I are very familiar with Benton County's procurement requirements, and so we can jump through those hoops. There'll be some other things with federal funds. This won't be simple, but it's a very exciting opportunity to get a commercial kitchen and some other much needed infrastructure for the school. That's my overview. So Krista, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think, you know, what we would want to do is the board interested in this to move forward? Because if you guys aren't, we would say no. But ultimately, like Chris said, you know, we would use the CBO. So right now, if Benton Community Foundation said they would do it, we would use them. And then it would look very much like how we run the bond. We'd have an oversight committee. We would look at the need. So for example, the commercial kitchen, we would have to add kind of a separate place where if it's a long-term, we could keep whomever needed to stay there away from the school, which we have a play shed. We would add on to the play shed, perhaps like an extra classroom and some bathrooms. And so I think for everything we continue to talk about, this was great. This would be a great, not only for our school, but we do know if there are emergencies, we would be the hub. We actually can hold the estimated population of the LC and its surrounding areas. And so I think it would be the one piece that we would have to work on, which I think would be in the grant, is if we did use it for an evacuation shelter, we would have to have a community movement to run the shelter. But, you know, right now, if we had this issue, we would not be able to feed people with our kitchen. I mean, pretty much what we'd be able to do is feed you ramen noodles. And so this would really help upgrade that, but we would get everything we have been talking about. And so I'm really super actually excited about this grant. When Chris called me, I was like, oh my God, it's like somebody was listening. And so you know, we just want to know, is the board interested enough for us to continue to move forward?
Well,
we would motion.
I would just say, you just give me a yes. Like, yep, we're interested to go.
So you don't need a vote.
Chris, I don't believe we need a vote. We just need to know if you guys are like, yeah, we're interested, and then we'll continue to move forward. I believe the vote would come is if we do get the grants, that we would have to kind of accept, like we'd have
If
some
we wanna-
MOUs.
If we want to apply for the grant, because usually we've always voted to
Okay,
apply
well,
for a grant.
If you want to say, yes, we want to move forward with
Okay.
this, then yeah, let's do the vote. We might as well just do a vote.
I think
What
that's.
is I mean, my question
Well, so
is-
hold on, before we get into questions, we have to have a motion on the table, and then we can question
Really?
discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so there does need to be a motion. We
'Cause
can
there's gonna be a vote. Okay.
revise
Doesn't seem
or
like we've
remove
talked
it.
about a lot of this here, but okay.
So I'll make a motion to accept moving forward with the core components of Resilience Hub's grant process.
So
I'll
there's a
second.
motion and a second. Jamie, let's start with you motioned first, so let's go ahead and start with the questions and discussion.
I think if you guys all look back on the Cycle Oregon event, was a very good eye-opening opportunity to see what kind of large-scale incident would look like in our community. So no, it's possible, and I think this is a great place for that, and it handled that very well. But we could have some supported infrastructure to be able to support it better. My question is, what was ACE's hesitation? Why did they feel it was inadequate to support this?
Chris, I'll let you answer.
Sure, I'll give you, because I actually asked them that after they came back and surprised Chris and I with the fact that they were not going to serve as the sponsor for this. Because we lived in this community for quite a long time, since before ACE was formed. And I asked them directly and said, I don't understand. I thought that that was the purpose of ACE,
I thought it
was
right
this
up
type
our
of
alley.
grant and supporting that. And they agreed. They said, yes, that's correct. That was what ACE was formed for, and that really is the purpose. But right now, with the current board, they're in limbo. Pretty much what they said was they don't feel like their objectives are clear within the board members, and so they didn't want to proceed.
Yeah,
Okay.
they've changed pace a little bit. There's been some. Yes.
Okay.
The trajectory you
can
believed is
understand
what we
that.
all believe, but it's now become more something else. But I won't elaborate.
But if I could,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
if I could just add, the Benton Community Foundation, I believe, really is a blessing
Yeah.
to this. I think this really is going to work in our favor, because what they're going to bring to it is something that we were going to be missing with ACE serving that role. ACE really doesn't have the capacity to do the administrative and financial elements that we would need. And so whereas the community, while BCF will have a fee associated with that, rightly so, that'll provide some much needed elements to this.
Okay. Thank you.
So my question was, what expenses are we going to incur doing this?
We wouldn't incur any expenses. It would all come from the grant.
But he said that there was some expenses that we would have to cover.
Oh,
If
no, just to clarify, what I tried to say was there are no expenses to
Oh,
the
okay,
district
okay.
for applying for this grant. At first, there were some elements where we thought there might be some cost for design, but we got that worked out with the county. There are no expenses for us to apply for this grant with BCF. As Krista said, if it were funded, we would use those funds, and just as we're doing with bond funds, we would manage them holistically, so that there would be no out-of-pocket expenses to the district.
Okay.
The only thing that we would have to do is we would have to upkeep the pieces. And so we would, like if we added bathrooms and a classroom to the play shed, then that would be expenses that we would have to do maintenance over time.
Okay.
But if you think, pros and cons, we might be able to get rid of able to get rid of one of the modulars and move somebody into that classroom. And then we have more, so that would be, we don't have anything up front. Like, to me, this is we put it in, we don't get it, great. We get it, great. We don't have anything to lose.
So my questions might be unique, but the thing that resonates with me is who controls and makes the call that there's an emergency and they need to use the facility. And when that happens, who says when that's over, and how that's managed, because they don't give away money for free without some oversight. And I'm afraid that, like the COVID emergency, which really wasn't an emergency at all, if something like that happens and they shut down our school and turn it into a community center for an extended period of time, if we don't have the autonomy to say, hey, we're done with this, or how do we go back to educating our kids? Let's say it's like some of the cities where there's an illegal immigrant crisis and they take over a school and fill it with illegals and they say, sorry, you don't have a gym anymore because we need this. So my concerns, this is great on providing, some sort of infrastructure, but then ultimately who's in charge of how we use that infrastructure over time?
So one of the pieces that you do have to have in place is you have to have a separate part. So that's why we have the play shed. So if we have an extended period of time, we would then push them out to the play shed. So they would be completely, I don't like the word segregated, but ultimately they'd be segregated. We'd have bathrooms, we would have a place for sleeping, we would have a place if there's illness. Part of this is that the CBO and community organizations would have to run it. Chris, I'm not quite sure if we've gotten that far on when it would go, like who would call, who would not call. I think it really would be the community working with the local county emergency response is how I've kind of gathered it, since this grant is coming through the Benton County Emergency Response.
So can I add to that? Can I add to your question? Does that mean that that you though, like in this community, could open the doors for a community response? Like I'm thinking of the fires that happened in 2020, where we needed to evacuate people quickly. We sent people here to the school, but there was nobody to open the doors or things like that. Do you have the oversight to say, just in time to do that? Does it give you that?
I believe so, but that would be where we would bring up more community involvement. So
Okay.
we would say, we have this thing, we would have the fire department maybe being here to run that, or, some sort of organ. That's the other part of the grant that we would have to work on, is if we had that, like if there's a fire and I couldn't make it because I'm, how we need to have that community response. So that's part of the plan, is how do you build who runs it and different pieces like that? Because this would be the same thing. Currently we don't have a official Red Cross shelter in our community. And we have been actually asked if we would like to go that direction. And so this would kind of be, I believe, kind of the same idea. Chris, is that kind of what you got out of that as well?
What I understand from the several conversations with Benton County Emergency Management is the school is being asked to provide a facility where these elements could be constructed. And then the school would have beneficial use of that 99.9% of the time until there was some emergency that they designated. So to Russ's question, I don't know the answer to that, how they would control that, and if they could come in and take control of the facilities. I've not heard of such a thing, but I don't run in those circles. If you'd like, we can always have a follow-up with them before they submit on the grant sometime in the next month, where those of you that are interested, we could do a Zoom meeting and you could ask those questions of them directly.
I mean, I lived in Florida for 8 years, and we went through a few hurricanes pretty much that devastated our town, and I watched what happens in emergency situations. In those situations, there's really no question, because even the hospitals were closed, right? Everybody was afflicted. My underlying concern is, when not everybody's afflicted and they choose to use it, as what happens. And I guess, we're a small community, and I would be hesitant to, we're a small community that likes to be small, I think, as a population, not everyone. And I would be hesitant. A lot of people have bad feelings with Benton County and how they treat LC, of giving them too much control and autonomy over our school as a designated community center. Because that's really, looking at these links, most of these resilience hubs that you can look at the progress are community centers, not schools. And that's great. I know we don't have one here, so I'm excited about the opportunity to have infrastructure. Not excited about Benton County overseeing the control of that infrastructure. Or I don't know this organization, this Benton County Community Group. I don't know them at all. I think we just have to do some due diligence and exploring that relationship to make sure that we're not, setting ourselves up for something we aren't going to support.
Yeah, Russ, I could talk just a little bit. Benton Community Foundation, if you take a look at them, they're basically a nonprofit organization based in Corvallis that really they're about doing exactly this kind of thing. This is what they do. They're not interested in emergency management or that element per se. They're about getting grants and helping communities, Corvallis and the outlying areas, with this type of thing. So this was good. They were I think that's why they were excited when Krista came to them, not for a fee. This is their charter as a nonprofit. So I think that during an event, in LC or in the community, I don't think they would be involved at all. In fact, I think it would be some of the ACE board members who already said, because they are some of the emergency management leaders in the community, people like Phil and the Adair, some of the others who would get involved in it. So not the ACE board per se. But your question about Benton County and their ability to come in and take over the school, if you will, on a designated basis, that's a question we would need to ask them. What would trigger that, and what would trigger them releasing it?
My understanding of a large scale event, it would fall to local government. That's how.
But we don't
the
have
list
any,
of-
that's why. I
But
get
that's what I'm
concerned.
saying, is it would fall under Benton County Emergency
Right.
Management.
Right.
I value that input and I want those.
Because
questions
I just
answered
look
as
at what they
well.
did to our health clinic that we actually used as a family. You know, they didn't care when they decided they didn't have the money to shut it down. It allows me to believe that they wouldn't care much if they needed our facility, what it affected some of the local people. I mean, we all pay taxes for that thing over there that we can't use, right? I mean, so for me, I think, I love the idea, don't get me wrong. I'm all about preparedness. I think we need something like this. I just want to make sure we're in control of it. And I don't want to dismiss anyone on this Zoom. I think ACE shouldn't be the oversight. I think an oversight committee should be formed if we got this grant separate of ACE, because like their self-admittance of the conflict there, it would have to be a designated committee supported by the school and the school board that said, we're going to oversee this when it happens.
Isn't my understanding that those individuals that are part of the emergency management, it's not necessarily their involvement with ACE that makes them that, it's their individual status.
Right. That's what I mean
So,
though. Like
it's
that's
not
like,
ACE
we could have a
oversight. Those
fire
people-
department member and we could have someone else, but you know what I
Those
mean?
people are tied in with the emergency management
Right.
of Benton County, not
Right.
just through ACE.
Right.
So, but I would love to have the emergency manager be available for those questions.
Sure.
I agree.
So. Jordan,
Anyways,
do you
those are
have
my
anything you wanted to ask? The rest, okay.
No, I was
I
gonna
just
say,
wanted-
man, if
I
Eric had
just-
a kitchen thing, how many more kids would be eating this food?
Yeah.
Like, that's all.
Good food.
So I hear from the board,
But we
Chris,
also don't
that
know that
they-
they would approve a kitchen. They may say they want to do something else, right?
well, I
Like,
don't,
It has to be.
well,
It has
$3
to
million,
be.
let's think about it.
so
I
let's ask
mean-
that question. Chris, how do they prioritize what is approved in that grant?
Well, I think this will be much like the seismic grant we just applied for. We're going to need to define with BCF what is going to be built with this money. And frankly, from the discussions we've had, the commercial kitchen has been the heart of it. So I do know that there will be some requirements to, build up our power backup system. So solar, battery backup, an emergency generator, frankly, all things that the school could use anyway. And then, as Krista said, some of the showers, restrooms, some additional facilities, rooms, and things like that that would serve that need that the school would use in the meantime. So we'll have to define that and draw diagrams and show where they'll be located on site as a part of this grant application.
And the district is part of prioritizing that. They're not dictated
No.
to, it's their,
The
Correct.
district,
When they
so,
write the grant.
yeah, so we would,
Okay.
it would look a lot like the seismic. We would say, Benton County, this is how we believe our hub would work. We would need a kitchen, we would need to redo locker rooms, we need to add bathrooms, we would add this piece. So we would say, this is what we're doing. And if they don't like it, then we can pull out. But
Right.
we would be the ones that would dictate and they would, we would just justify as. we went.
But the Resilience Hub is not, it's out of Urban Sustainability Directors Network. It's not a Benton County thing.
No, they're writing it for us.
It's
Well,
it's
the
it's federal.
Benton County Benton Community Foundation's writing it, not Benton
No,
County.
no, Benton
No.
County is writing it. Benton Community Foundation is the
mm.
CBO that would be attached to
Okay.
us as the financial.
So
piece.
Benton County is the one that wants Monroe, us, and
Yes.
Ren.
And they're approaching, you said EPA?
So this is, I believe, Chris, this is an EPA grant, correct?
It is an EPA grant. In fact, at first, we were concerned the Benton County was really just sort of using our small communities to get a big chunk of
Well, that's-
money for
that's what I would be
themselves,
afraid of.
and then, give us a few pennies. And what we've heard is, no, that's not the case. 100% of the money will be split between the three communities.
I mean, that would be my concern, honestly. I mean,
So here's my next question, because what I hear from a few of the board members is they'd like to be involved in the conversation, but you can't have 3 of the board members because that makes a quorum. So are there 2 board members or up to 2 board members that would like to sit in on a meeting to ask some of these questions directly with Chris, to ask some of these questions regarding this grant?
I'll be involved. Add that to my plan if that's okay. But
I think that's great. We just can't have more than 2.
I
And
mean,
we
it's
could
a
all
part
send our
of
questions to those
life that I
representatives.
think I do well with managing the gleaners and stuff here. And like, I think it's vital to do it. I just think I'd like to be involved in exploring what that looks like.
I think they're great questions, so.
Mhm.
Jamie?
So
I
I don't know.
Yeah, but you can ask the question.
Yeah,
You could
I'd
say
say
on
that
behalf
question.
We
of.
can give you the authority to give, you both could ask those questions on behalf of this board and speak
Yeah.
for us through those questions. And that's absolutely something that this board could do.
I would definitely love to be a part of that conversation.
Okay. So with that, is there any other discussion or questions for Chris? So then with that, is there a modification to the motion that you would like to make?
I don't think so, because I still think we're interested
Yeah.
with questions.
Mhm.
Okay, so Chris, could you include Russ and Jamie in the meetings to discover some of the answers to those questions around the control of the facilities?
Absolutely. I think what would be appropriate is we would be setting up a meeting with Benton County probably next week, early to mid next week if we can, want to keep it moving. And the CEO of the Benton Community Foundation and Krista to talk about next steps and information they need. That's a great opportunity. I'll coordinate with you on your schedules when you're available, and we'll see if they can have that as a Zoom meeting when you can attend. If not, we'll make sure we set up a separate meeting just for you to ask those questions of them. But as Krista said, and I completely agree, if at any time during this application process where things start to go sideways, we start hearing about some of the requirements that we're not comfortable with, we're going to bring things to you. You folks are we're going to be reporting out anyway on what's going on with this. So there won't be surprises where we get awarded this money and, oh, by the way, you have to do this. You folks will see it all.
All right, so, then the motion as placed stands, motioned and seconded. There's been discussion, there's follow-up action, and both Russ and Jamie have the approval from the board and the conversations to speak for our questions. So we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on the grant.
Okay, let's do roll. Soren,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes,
Jamie,
Yes.
Deb, yes.
thank you, great discussion. All right, local service plan for LVL ESD. Do you want to give a quick overview of this one?
Yeah, the LBL ESD Superintendent Jason Hayes is on. Hi, Jason, how are you?
Good. How are you all?
Good.
So every year we bring to you the local service plan document. It explains the service plan that has been approved by that has been built by the superintendents of the region. Jason, we're gonna have to update my picture, it's old. And then each region, if you look at the bottom or the end of my very first page, I'm sorry. Then each school district in the region board votes to accept the service plan. There's 2 types of services, and Jason, if I say it incorrectly, please, is he still on there? He is.
Yep, I'm here. I'm still here. Yeah. Okay,
there's
that
2
sounds good.
types- Perfect. There's 2 types of services that the ESD provides. It's a tier 1 service that we automatically pay for. So like our Synergy is in the tier 1 services. Some of our SPED services are in the tier 1 services, and then tier 2. Tier 2 services are ones that we pay out of our budget for. They can include financial, technology, additional SPED services. And so ultimately, what you all need to do is decide if you want to accept the services that are in the tier 1, tier 2. Jason, am I saying this correctly?
Yeah, essentially, with the governance of the local service plan that typically is fully revised every other year. So we're actually, in this spot of looking at, we're in the first year of the biennium. And so we're really looking into next year, as there were just very little changes to the plan. So you approved this plan last year. It's essentially the same plan that gives you your tier 1 services that all of the 12 district superintendents put the plan together. They approve it, then the ESD board approves it, and then it goes out to each individual school district, component school district board for approval. And what Krista is saying is right on. We basically, the ESD receives funding through the state school fund, 90% of which all goes to school districts. And in our ESD region, our superintendents and districts over the years have decided that there would be 2 ways that funding comes forth. That some of it is tier 1, which everybody gets, and then the rest of that 90% that isn't utilized in tier 1 goes into a tier 2 account, in which each district gets a chance to spend that money the way that they would like to spend that money. And so for this year, for example, LC had $76,317 in a tier 2 account that isn't your general fund, but it's a separate pot of money that you get to utilize from the ESD.
So what you're voting on tonight is a resolution of what the tier 1 services and tier 2 services are. I will bring to you, and Jason and I have been in conversations, I will bring to you all the tier 2 service, what we will get to the tier, I will show you what we're gonna pay for. So tier 2 services, prior years is what the business manager prior to Dawn was paid from. How we pay for payroll services, we pay for some technology services. So Jason, tell me if I'm correct, what they're voting on tonight is that they're the tier 1 services and the tier 2 services. So you're not.
Yeah, so
voting on the
what?
contract, and I will bring it to you all.
Exactly, yeah. So what they're voting on tonight is just the local service plan of what is provided to all of the all 12 school districts in your tier 1. You have control over your tier 2 services, and that's actually outside of this. That will be in the coming, basically in the next month. Our team will meet with Krista and Dawn and the LC team to hear and really listen for what LC wants in terms of tier 2 services. You can pick those things, and then those will be what you will pick going forward. And that's not actually what is on the vote. So tonight is just the local service plan. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
So is there a motion to consider?
I'll make a motion to consider the LBL ESD LSP document as written.
Consider or approve?
It has to be approved.
Oh, to approve.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
There's a second. All right, let's open up for questions and discussion.
Did I understand correctly? Tier 1, we don't have any additional expense.
No.
Or tier 2 is where we will incur additional expense, and we will get to discuss that before.
Well, we'll show it to you. So the tier 2 will not necessarily be a discussion because it's operational. So for example, we pay for a speech and language pathologist out of our tier 2. So those are not discussions. Those are based on what we.
So on this document, it has speech language pathologist as a tier 1 service.
If we go above and beyond specific, so they might say, for example, it could be a tier 1, but sometimes they say, here's your level. If you go above that level, you have to do it.
Yeah, and that's a good way of putting it, is that you get a certain amount of service. So speech language, well, not speech language pathologist. I'll say a different example would be like a school psychologist and special ed testing. You're going to get a certain amount from tier 1, And then if you want more than that, you can buy more than that, and you can use your tier 2 dollars for that, or you can actually use district dollars if you run out of tier 2 dollars.
So how they do, like, for example, school psychologists, what they do is they say, okay, based on your ADM and data that we see, this is how many hours you get. And if we go above and beyond the hours, then that drops into tier 2.
Okay,
That's
that
how
makes
that
more
works.
sense.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. Very well
And
put
so
said.
then, like, we also, like, same thing for physical therapy. If you have this much hours and we go above,
Yeah.
then that's what we go out of the tier 2. So that's how that works. I will show you all, Jason, and tell me correctly, I show them the contract. But what's in it is really not a school board thing, because that's based on what we need on IEPs and different things like that.
Yeah, you're right. And that typically for all practical purposes falls into operations. And for the most part, those are decisions that superintendents make. But it's certainly easy to share that information with the board so that the board can be aware of what you're getting from the ESD. And I'm always happy to come to a meeting and explain, what those services might entail if you have questions.
I do feel like in the past, I do feel like in the past, I did not have a complete understanding of the tier 2 contracts that were being approved. So I would like to see, I do think that would be really great for
Yeah.
us to see and understand the decision on how those dollars are spent. Totally understand that's operational, but just like to see
The
what
contract.
what those look
Yeah.
like.
And
I
what,
agree.
and really what we're doing is, even as we go through this year, Dawn and I are looking what we currently have, and we're like, what can we absorb as a district, and what do we need you guys to do? So one of the examples, for an example, our speech and language pathologist, we actually didn't have one because we hired one in district. But so when that person resigned, then we had to go to the ESD. We didn't actually have that kind of, like, we're using above and beyond what the tier 1 was for. And so we are paying for that extra piece. We're paying for a behavior specialist to come out. We are paying for payroll out. So we're looking at, and some of the technology is paid at it. But I'm more than happy to show you all. And so you guys can have that understanding.
And this is based on ADM.
It is, Jason, correct, based on.
Yeah,
ADM.
so basically it is actually what the ESD group has talked about in the last few years is they use a 3-year rolling average. And so right now, LC, because you are hanging on to enrollment from the past couple of years, you're actually held a little bit more harmless as your enrollment drops. And so it's a 3-year rolling average in terms of ADMW.
That answered my question. We've all obviously voiced our concern about the huge drop we faced in our bills. So as long as that's transparent and.
Yes. And
and that's easy to show as well. And actually, Krista will get tomorrow a presentation from myself and my CFO at the ESD regarding next year's tier 1 budget. And it'll be a slide deck that Krista will have access to. And you can take those slides so that you can kind of see how the budget's built. And also there's one slide that shows the rolling ADM that gives you your formula for this. And again, if you see that and you're like, oh gosh, I'd like more information about that, I'd be happy to come and talk about that and help you understand how it all comes together.
I guess what I would just hate to see is that we get all these services because our ADM's clear up here, and that's what we're utilizing to serve the students that are at the 200 student level, and so we're way out of range for what our real true needs are.
Yeah,
That's my
and-
concern.
Well, and as we go down, you're gonna see that average go down, and we have to adjust. And so we'll see different adjustments, and that'll be something that, as we move forward, as now I'm gonna put on my special education director hat. I will look and we will see, what is our needs for speech and language pathology? What is our needs for school psychology, school psych, who does all the academic tests, or the cognitive testing. And then I will work with the sped teacher to say, this is what we need. And then we give those numbers and then we adjust from there.
All right, so there was a motion and a second. There's been some discussion and questions. Thank you, Jason.
No, you're welcome.
Laura, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Okay, let's take a vote. Russ,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Christine.
Yes. All right, motion passes unanimously. Okay, let's move into our budget committee appointments. So thank you to our community members that have applied. Appreciate that. Laura, before we get into this, is there anyone that has expressed a desire to fill the,
The 1 year.
yes, that's the one I'm thinking of.
No one made any note of that on their application.
Okay, and we can just let them know they can reapply again for the longer term. Okay. So I think the way that we ought to consider going down this, because we have to fill them. You guys have a sheet of paper in front of you. Sorry. I just put a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 next to each one. And then we have to do a motion on each candidate to fill the vacancy. So for example, it'd be like, I would motion to approve person X to fill vacancy 1, term ending June 30th, 2027, and then go through that list.
Okay.
So are there any? Yeah, so there's that, and the applications are there, so we can go ahead and consider motions.
Are these presented in the order for which they applied?
Or does it
What do you
really
mean?
matter?
It does.
Oh, no, I just.
No, I think it was however Laura put them on.
What?
We were
So
just.
I
I
guess-
start at the top and just say, motion,
Whatever came through
first person
first.
for this.
Yeah.
position
Right, but
one,
I
and
would
then
just
go
hate
down
if, say, position 3, which is or 4, is that 1, 2, 3?
So-
Position 4 is only the 1 year.
Yeah.
And that person put in their application
Well,
first.
position
and
4 is
lost.
like 3 months, but
Well, they can always apply
tragically,
too.
I'm sure they'll just say, I'll go more. I mean, because literally.
So
it's 3 months,
position
2 months.
4 would be Only this year. Gambler, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but if she was the first person to apply, then shouldn't she get position 1? That was my thought.
Well, she's here. I
yeah.
guess we could ask her if she's only
But I
wanting
don't,
the
I
1
don't
year.
know the order in which to look.
She's the only one here.
Well,
Let's
let's
give her
talk
a
about her
3
while
year
she's-
too.
She's sitting right here.
So
So,
do you want the longest one or?
so do you want a 1 year
Hey,
term or a
listen, she's
3 year term?
I say
She's
for you
committed.
showing up, you just pick your spot.
I wonder if anyone even knew there was a.
I think we did
Mhm.
share that. We did share that there was one, but and that is why I asked the question of like, was there anybody that?
Hanging at the Merck, the post office, and at Deb's was the thing about the budget committee, and it does specific. Yes, and my email.
And I think we said it in a board
specified that
meeting, too.
There
Yeah.
are,
So
Alright,
then
well,
that
that's
position
great.
that's only this year, ending in June, would they have to reapply then
Mhm.
for next year?
next year if they
Yep.
wanted. to
So we'll
do
have
it.
2 openings next year that people have to
so-
reapply for.
I think we should move on. I will make a motion that we put Catherine Gamler in vacancy number 1.
All right.
Term ends 6/30.
I'll second that motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm tired.
Laura,
What?
vote.
Sorry.
We have
I'm like, what
I know.
which position are we talking about?
Vacancy 1 for Gambler.
Okay, so let's take a vote. Deb,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Russ.
Yes.
Welcome to the budget committee.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your willingness to serve.
All right, is there a motion for vacancy 3?
I'll make a motion to put Mrs. Webb in vacancy 3.
All right, there's a motion for
Webb.
vacancy Webb and vacancy 3.
I'll second the motion.
Second discussion. Laura,
Okay, let's take a vote. Soren,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Christine,
yes.
Yes.
Russ.
Yes.
All right. Thank you to Miss Webb. Vacancy 4.
Make a motion to put Mrs. Foster in vacancy 4.
All right, so a motion for Tracy Foster into vacancy 4. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, discussion.
Make sure we communicate it was nothing.
Take a vote. Russ,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Jamie.
Yes.
All right, and then vacancy 5.
Make a motion for Mrs. Van Leuven to be in vacancy 5.
All right, so motion for Cheryl Van Leuven and vacancy 5. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right, any discussion?
Stay on the right side.
That's right.
Go ahead, Laura.
Jamie,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Deb, yes, Russ.
Yes.
Oh, outstanding. Thank you, everybody, for filling 4
Yay.
budget committee seats. Thank you.
Wonderful. I didn't think it would happen.
We have a
honestly.
full budget committee now,
I
guys.
never thought.
And
of that.
she's a numbers girl, just an FYI.
Perfect. All right, so we have item 6E. We need to discuss board meeting in April and May. Do you want to talk about April and I can talk about May?
April's board meeting falls on parent teacher conference night, so I would like to actually move it if possible. And really, there's nothing gonna be that exciting at that board meeting, and I think that'll give us a little bit more time as well to get some other numbers for us all. I'd like to move it to April 17th, which is a Wednesday evening. I will not be able to do the 18th because I'm actually at a conference.
That's
Okay.
fine by me.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to move the board meeting in April to April 17th.
No, second.
All right. Discussion. Laura.
Okay. Let's take a vote. Soren,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Deb, yes, Christine.
Yes. All right, and then the May meeting that I wanted to talk about was I'm out of town on a business trip. I do not have a preference. If you want to move it, we can move it. Soren has to run the meeting.
When
Or
is the May one?
is
It's
it-
on.
is it the
Yeah.
May
11th?
8th.
It's May
Nine.
9th.
Oh my gosh, I'm on the wrong month. Okay.
So if we move it, I am happy to run it. If we don't, Soren has to run the meeting and I will be just absent. Hopefully you'll excuse me. But I'm in Wisconsin that day and we'll
Are
fly
there
home.
Important things in May.
Probably.
So,
Probably will be in the, we'll
Yeah.
probably be in the, I would imagine talking about union stuff at that point.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
so we
So-
can move it to the
Can
16th.
we look at the 15th to the 16th for your guys' calendars?
Yeah, and believe me, my wife's due like the first week of May, so for me later in the month, it'd probably be better too to get a pass to be here.
I mean, if she has the baby in the beginning, you can totally bring the baby. To
Ah,
the 16th
I
meeting.
I do it too. I'm there too. Yeah.
So May,
So I'll make a
May
motion to
15th or
move,
16th. Does
move the
anybody have
meeting to
any-
the 16th.
May 16th. I'll second that motion.
Any discussion, further
No.
discussion?
Okay. Jamie,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Soren,
Yes.
Deb, yes, Christine.
Yes.
I don't think she'd want you to babysit the baby. I think she want you to babysit the 15.
Oh, no, not Finchley.
Oh, I'll take that one too.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Finchley, he has got more energy than 10 little dogs.
Yeah, he does.
That rounds out our new business
This
this
is
evening, but
Texas.
we do have some old business for the early literacy
I just-
grant agreement.
I just put on the grant agreement so you all could read it. You don't have to vote on it. You can see my John Hancock on it, and I just wanted you all to see it.
Okay.
All right, let's see, we don't have anything for first reading, we don't have anything for second reading. Are there any board comments this evening?
Not this month, next month.
All right,
You give me a complex.
future agenda items. Anything from the board?
I would still like to bring up a summer reading competition of some sort that we could talk about.
Oh, I think
We
that's a
get to
great
get that
idea.
on
So-
the board.
I thought you were gonna meet with Krista about that and talk
I
about
need
that.
to probably.
Okay.
Maybe
guys
the
chat.
library too. Because summer, the school's kind of closed since we're not gonna have power.
The only thing I would say is, maybe you two talk
Yeah,
kind of
we
on
can
it,
talk
but,
about it.
I'm just wondering, like, does the board do that, or is that like a community event type of
Yeah,
thing?
it could be.
But you
You're
guys, you guys chat about that
Alright.
maybe, and then,
Yeah.
yeah, bring that back. All right, so then, anybody else?
I also think, would like to throw in there, I still think it is really important that we potentially create something for our community to educate them on how we work with them and how that transpires here at the table, some education.
How?
I know there was
What?
talk about it in the past, about making
that part of potentially an OBE.
I mean,
visit could be
I'm just gonna
discussed.
say this, I'm still amazed that no one shows up to these meetings.
Well, there's nothing.
Only when there's issues that.
topic.
need to be
Right,
Well,
brought
but I
but this
think
is my point, is like, I think it's hard to extend yourself to the community when the community doesn't extend themselves to you. I know that everybody talks about the school and the school board, and they kind of reach out to us. But to me, honestly, for the amount of concern I have from people in the community, I'm surprised that people don't engage us more. I'm with you. I think it would be good for them to know how to.
However, maybe we can approach it from the fact of that when there is a hot topic, that's not the appropriate time to come to your board. And maybe that's how we present it, is hot topics aren't the time to come and scream at us because we're not fulfilling the duties that you expect of us as your elected officials. Why don't you learn with us about what our responsibilities are, how we can help advocate for you, and then maybe we can give them that opportunity to do it the right way.
I think it would be interesting to survey the community, because I think they fall in like 3 groups. 1, their kids go here because they live here and they don't feel like they have another choice. 2, they live here and they send their kids here because they want them here. And 3, they live here and they send their kids somewhere else because they don't want them here. I think it would be interesting to have the data of how people have made that decision and why, because I think it would help us with community engagement, because there's those 3 groups of people definitively, right? There's people like my wife and I that just aren't going to put our kids on a bus to Philomath. So we bring them here and are involved, like running for the school board, to try to make it the best education possible. But there's a lot of people that have made that decision, and I like to understand why, that they send them, and I don't know how we get that information if they don't come here and share it, unless we kind of find a way to survey them. And maybe that can be done over the summer as well, like with a community effort of, where are you putting your kids in school and why? I don't know.
I think that's a different conversation than what you're bringing up of education, of what, because do you remember the statement you made of like, we didn't really understand what we do behind this table until we
Right.
got behind this table? And so helping them to understand where we sit, like what's our role behind this table? And so would you be able to reach out to events to see if there's like a curriculum that they have or something that we could do, like with if there's something already created that we don't have to recreate? Also, that might be really helpful, because I think, and then if we can totally talk about adding that to an agenda here, or adding that to a community event, or a night that we partner with the school on the operations. Like, are we allowed to have a session that's open in the gym that we're allowed to all 5 sit there? You know what I mean? Like, would you be willing to take that to events and try to see if there's something that we could do like that?
I think an example, the one time you presented at the table some very valid concerns as a parent. Not necessarily the right avenue.
Right.
Being on this side of the table,
Right.
right? So if we've just learned that because of our role, our whole community is thinking that when that hot button item is up in front of us, they're gonna come here and they're gonna shout at us, and we literally cannot handle their concern. So why are we not coaching them how to follow the processes and the procedures correctly to get their issues heard correctly, presented correctly, and handled correctly? Whether that be the outcome they want or not, we don't have the control over that. However, if they're taught, I wish I would have been taught the process to correctly go through a complaint process, and how it's a hard process and it's a tedious process. But in order for it to go anywhere, you have to complete the process. And so that education, I think, would be beneficial. It would help me be able to serve them better, and for them to understand why they're not getting what they want when they come and they scream at us and say, this is not right. We need to do this different. So
I think
that's my
I
point.
think to your point too is if we educate before it's a hot topic, if we educate on anything on before it's a hot topic, then it's not even coming to us, because once that comes to us, we can't sit at this table and hear that, but we're tainted essentially. So, I mean, that's something that's really important.
Well, I think there's a multitude of things going on, right? I didn't understand my role when I ran for the school board. That would have been great, right, to understand. I often sit back and think I could advocate better for my kids if I wasn't on the school board, right? I do. But I also believe that we are capable of building a community environment where people can participate in the school's future in a way that I don't know. All I can say is like I think Krista needs to be more of that spokesperson of the community than us, of helping people. But I will say this to you, okay? So I just in a quick note, I came to pick up my kids at school the other day, and I heard a teacher, won't name the name, come out and talk to a parent about getting their kid special education services. Totally caught them off guard. I heard it as a parent, not of that child, in public, and I think that's totally the wrong direction, right? That would be like me
So I think we
coming
want
as
to
a school
kind of
board member.
pause for a second because I don't think this is where board comments is supposed to go. I'm going to take us back for a second.
Okay.
I feel like that's starting
Well,
to
I
get.
didn't mention any names. I'm just
No,
saying that for me, if we expect the community to come to us respectfully, we also need to come to them respectfully, right? As educators and teachers and board members. So it goes both ways, you know. We all need to understand respect and limitations of where we should have conversations. So, I mean, to me, that's, I'm just,
I appreciate you bringing that up because that then, I don't disagree with you on a way, and we're teaching staff, we're changing culture, and we're teaching staff appropriateness on how we act, because if we expect to be respected, then we need to give it back. So I don't disagree with you on that. Thank you for that feedback.
yeah, I wasn't trying to call anyone out.
No, I appreciate it though, because
Because we don't
I,
want people to yell
it's
at
a good-
us and
it's a
make
good
us feel
point.
uncomfortable.
yeah, it's a
either.
good point about how we do everything as a community, teachers, staff, community members and parents, how we do it and how it works and where our rules are. Because I think the only way that's gonna work is everybody understands what their rules are and how it goes about it. I don't disagree with you.
See, I think the biggest issue is for a lot of parents is they don't have the time until there is an issue. Because, you know, we're all busy working and
They don't make
farming
the
and
time.
whatever.
They don't make the
Well,
time.
Yeah.
I mean, I got up
Sometimes.
at 5 this morning and went to the hospital and I came straight here. I haven't been home. I
Yeah.
mean, and so we make the time because we care about it. The idea, I think, Jamie, is what you're saying is how do we get them to understand
The rule.
our
Rules.
role? And if they care, they need to figure out that path to get to Krista and the school or the teacher, administrators, and work that
We
out.
have a problem. We're their elected officials, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to bring their message forward. However, we have very strict guidelines in which to do that.
But their message, not their complaint. That's the
Exactly.
difference. Their
Exactly.
message is okay.
Exactly,
Big
but that's
picture.
not how it's presented. So
Yeah.
teaching them the difference,
Mhm.
teaching them the process. It's more upfront in your face now on the website than it has ever been. But still,
Well, and I think you're working against a culture that did not follow that process.
I think that's
Um,
another big I was going to say that, but I didn't want to get too far
Well,
down that path.
well, and I
that's
think
a part of new leadership, new board, new.
There's a subset of this
community
community that are
culture.
afraid to come to these meetings. That's what I believe. They just feel like if they voice anything, it's not going to be heard or done. So,
Well, and I do think that then is education. So I do think that we need to discuss that as well. But that's not unique to our community. I think if you go to any board meeting, especially in a small community, it looks a lot like this. But I do think it's the rules. I think we're working against a culture. It's not uncommon for me to get an email about a complaint as either the principal or superintendent, to which I say, the first step you need to go is to that staff member. If here's the KL policy, please make sure you read it. The one thing, we do have to follow those steps because, there are laws for that, but I don't disagree. I do think we need to educate on rules.
well, and we had a meeting. We discussed this, bringing kids to the board meeting for recognition. We haven't done that. I mean, I think one way to get parents to a board meeting is if we're going to, if kids are doing something special to be recognized in front of the board, to bring them here with their parent in the beginning, public comments, so they can leave if they don't want to stay. But then they see the board functioning, at least a few at a time, and maybe they'd be more inclined to participate.
I just think it's another level of transparency.
Yeah.
We're taking the time to inform and educate.
Yeah.
And help them understand so that they get the transparency of it. Feel like they're being heard.
Yeah.
And they understand that in order to be heard, they have to do it this way. So there isn't a frustration. I think some of that,
They should focus on bringing those kids in that are, doing the attendance or, the 4Os or, just start recognizing and that'll bring the parents in. So, cause I would kind of like to see the arts class come in maybe next board meeting so I can thank them for the job they're doing as a community member, not as a board member.
So I have a different opinion of this. I don't think it's gonna be a very popular one, but this is a business meeting, not a recognition time. We can always set up time with a teacher through Krista to say like, hey, I want to come into the classroom, or I want to set up time to acknowledge them, or I want to be to an assembly. So while I do love the ideas of also recognizing in some spaces, like we got so much business done tonight. We're at 2 hours already, but we got a ton of business done tonight. And we do have to remember that we're a business meeting first. And that kind of goes back to what OSBA teaches us too. Like a high functioning board doesn't have all the feelings in it because we're handling the business side of it. And so I want to kind of, before we start bringing all of that stuff back, that we did that, and we did that when we were not a functioning district, in my opinion. So I just am gonna, we did do the feeling stuff, and we weren't a functioning school at the time.
Well, it's
And
not
so I
really
just
the
want to
feeling
kind of,
stuff. It's the engagement stuff. I think we talked about having student government and a student body show up at the board meetings. We've made no progress on that either. So I guess what I'm saying is if we want to be a transparent board that teaches the school and the students and the parents what we do, then we have to do something besides talk about it. I mean, we had students interested in having a student government and interacting with the school board, but the school year is almost over. I mean, we're ticking down. So
But we've also learned that surveys land us too.
well, I get that, and I'm not saying emailing a survey out is the way to do it. I think public comments are best heard in public settings, right? Like everyone came to the open house. It's not really hard when you have a captive audience at the open house to give them a little question thing to drop in a box on the way out, right? Like, I mean, or a sporting event, a big basketball game. I'm just saying, if we want to do it, we have to be proactive. They're not going to come to us. Clearly, I've only been on the school board 9 months, but they're not coming to us, right? So if we want to be proactive about it, and I don't care if we aren't, if we decide we don't want to be, then don't. But then we can't complain about the enrollment being crap and a third of our students going to Philomath to school or Corvallis, right? Like,
so you will follow up with Vince on maybe some education opportunities for the community. And then I think what I think would be best, well, what I would actually ask is, could you partner with Krista, because that will likely overlap into operational pieces of that, of like how will we engage that or open that conversation, that maybe there's not like that conversation happen there to present a plan to the board on how we could do that. And then Russ, I have down for you to talk about a reading program.
I will.
Okay. All right, key dates. We have an executive session next Wednesday, March 20th at 6 p.m. Then we have spring break, the 25th to the 29th. April 5th is a grading day. Red Cross blood drive is April 10th. Student conferences are April 11th and 12th. And then we have a regular board meeting on April 17th. It says April 11th, but we moved it. All right. With that, we can adjourn at 9:21 p.m.
At 6. Why do we have that executive session? The one I missed. That's probably why I didn't know about it.